You're on.
Hi, today is April 24th. Jardena, isn't it April 24th?
April 25th, we just talked about this.
I'm sorry, I'm a day off here.
We rehearsed.
Today it's May 2014. No,
I can edit.
April 25th, 2010. Jardena and I are here recording Daddy's family history and personal history. Take it away, Jar.
Hi.
So we're going to be asking our dad Herman some questions and seeing what he has to say.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about the family history. And so we have a few questions here. We're going to start with your father, and then we'll talk about your mother. And then I thought at the end we would talk about you.
That's fine.
So, let's see. So the first thing is about your father, Samuel London. So where did he come from? Where did he grow
Born
up?
in New York City, I believe. What did I do with just starting?
Nothing, you're talking like not you, and so am I. So we'll be normal towards the end. And so, alright, so, and his parents, Morris and Teresa.
Yes.
No, so were they born here, or did they come from somewhere else?
Germany.
Both?
That's what I understand. Don't ask me where, because I never found out where. Although when I did some research to try to find out where the London family came from, most of them seem to have come from Leipzig, Germany. But nobody had changed their name. I looked it up all the way back to the 1600s. That was about the time a lot of Londons came out of there. They're not Londons, British Londons. They were German.
Was it Loudon?
London.
L-O-N?
L-A-M-D-E-N, I believe.
Which means learned one, right? Is that...
That's what it means, learned one. Oh.
I brag about that.
What?
I brag about that my last name is learned one.
I think it's funny that all Jewish first and last names are about knowledge and intelligence.
Yes.
Oh, it's not who you know, it's what you know.
Pardon me, I had to take something out of my mouth.
I'll edit that out. Okay, so they were from Germany, and they came here when? Do you know? I mean, generally, when they were kids, when they were adults? Did they escape oppression?
Well, I don't know, all the kids were born in the United States, so, you know, it must be 18-somethings, in the time when a lot of people came to the United States, you know, the big invasion of a lot of people from Europe. Although my grandfather wanted to go back to Germany between the two world wars. They had a business here, but he thought it was better to go back there. Lucky he didn't go back to Germany. But he died anyway. My grandfather died in America by 1931 or 29 or something like that, whatever. He wanted to go back to Germany.
Why did he want to go back?
I don't know. They had a business that didn't work, and he wanted to go back. He thought it was better.
What was their business?
They had a laundry company. Now, there were no such thing as, you know, places where you brought your stuff into a washing machine kind of a thing. People would come to your door and say, you know, I collect the laundry, and then you come back maybe the next week, and they'd have all your sheets and your baby, you know, all kinds of stuff with the laundry.
So that's what he had
London,
here.
I think it was called Lincoln Laundry. I don't have any documents on it, but it was called Lincoln Laundry.
Okay, interesting.
But they didn't have any of that by the time I was born.
So you knew both grandparents? You knew both of your father's parents?
I didn't know. I was 1 year old. They say that I knew him and played with him, but I didn't know.
So they died when you were little?
Yeah, I never remember.
Oh,
You
yeah.
don't have a little tiny bit of any memory of them at all?
I have pictures of him. But
They both died at the same time?
no. My grandmother died when I was in the Army.
Wait, your father's mother?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you knew her, but you didn't know him.
Oh, I knew her very well.
Oh, okay. What did you call her?
Grandma.
Okay. All right. Not Linda? Linda. So now your grandparents probably not. Did they go to college? Probably not.
No, but they were both pretty educated people.
Did they meet here, or they met there and came
No,
over
I
together?
think over.
And they
They
came.
didn't meet here. No, they met over
They
back
came
in
over
the old
together.
country. Yeah.
In the old country. Did your grandmother tell you stories about what it was like there?
Only once she remembered. She was telling me a story where they had to move when she was a little girl, and they had to move from one place to another place. I guess she was like kindergarten. She was recalling that, but she didn't tell me the names of the places, and even then it was kind of upsetting having to move and staying in Europe. But
Why did they have to move?
Jews are always moving in Europe, but there's always kinds of
That's why they moved, because they were being chased out?
you know.
Did she tell you any more?
The only thing is they were what you would call, I don't know what the term, upper class Germans or the Jews. I don't know if you know all the divisions, the people who came from Europe, but my father's parents were the smart, elite, kind of classy people.
Intelligentsia?
Yeah. And my mother's family was not from Romania. They would go, and I didn't know until just a few years ago that you're not supposed to marry somebody from the other. No laws, nothing religion, but you don't go.
Oh.
So my mom,
between your father and your mother.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess my mother thought she was going to get into a higher level family, but there's a lot of I didn't know about disputes between them, but not just them. They thought she was from, the Lower East Side of New York, with the people who were not very educated.
Oh, where was your father's family? Where in New York did they live? Where in New York did your father's family live?
Well, they lived. They lived in Harlem when it was really nice to be up. That was a classy area, and then they moved up to I think the Bronx and different places, but a part of Harlem was really classy.
Well, you said that as a child you lived on the Upper West Side, right? For a little while? But I thought you were telling me you lived
We lived in Manhattan for a while, but it was right across from the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
We walked across the bridge all the time.
On the east side or the west side? What's across from the Bronx?
I was on the west side of the Bronx, and you looked across to the Upper Manhattan Island. We looked right across there.
Oh, cool. So then, your grandparents had the business of the laundry, right?
Yeah, but then later on, when I always knew my grandmother, she had a little, I don't know, she sold like threads and needles and cloth, and a local kind of a little store that sold kind of stuff, and she kept it way until she was very, very old, because instead of staying at home with her daughters there, she had a little store. That was her way of going to go someplace during the day, even though she wasn't making any money. She was just doing it to have a little store to get.
Oh, so it was a store. It wasn't just at her apartment. It was a real store.
No, it was a real store. Yeah, all kinds of things.
Like sewing stuff, is that?
Yeah, sewing stuff and all kinds of things. And she got to know. She knew how to deal with in a few languages. She dealt with people. Enough. She knew enough of Italian to this and enough German for this, and just so she could talk.
And her name was Teresa, right?
Teresa, yeah.
So she could fit in with all these different people. How did she become named Teresa? Do you know? That seems like an unusual Jewish person or German person.
That's a common name.
A Jewish name?
Yeah.
Really? Seems like not a Jewish name.
Like Mother Teresa? That's not Jewish.
Well, I don't know.
Okay, that's interesting. So now they came here. I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just saying. What was her name? It was Grandma.
Oh, so they came here. Was it because they were being oppressed? They
Well,
were,
everybody, there was that time when a lot of people from a lot of countries came here.
oh, like the first
In the
immigration.
1800s. That was a big time when everybody came to
Were they coming here for opportunity to or to escape?
opportunities
Oh.
and so on, things like that.
So now what about, about your father? So then your father grew up in Harlem with his...
Well, no, I don't know where they actually lived when he was little. Somewhere in Manhattan, I don't know.
Okay.
But they had other things.
So then they grew up there, and he has two sisters. Had two sisters.
Yes. Now the thing was, I always thought, I always knew that one of his sisters were his twin. But I didn't know until after they had passed away and other things that they had played a game on both sides of my family. My mother and my father, everyone was playing games. They told everybody that the other girl was his twin to make her younger so she could get married. Very, very confusing, okay? Very confusing, but the one that I thought was the twin my whole life was not. It was the other one who was the twin.
So who...
It was so mixed up that I'd have to go...
You don't know which one was
I don't
the
know
actual twin?
how that actually worked, but
So
I never told you this. This is what you want, stuff that you never...
a London exclusive.
Okay, I'll make it short as... When I stood there...
All I saw was just hair.
When you were being born and I helped your mother give birth to you, and first when I saw you just being born and I looked at you and I said, it looks like my Aunt my Aunt Dorothy.
The evil one?
And the thing is, and I didn't say that because I didn't think she was as good a looking as the other one. Even my mother said the other one was right.
Tilly.
But
You can say that
Tilly,
like
Tilly, I looked at you, but I know that when all babies are born, they just are not good. You know, they've just come out of this, and you've both turned out to be so nice looking. But when you first came out, you were really,
Well, Mason looked like you when he was born.
and you look just like my Aunt Dora as they call
I
it.
don't look like her now?
Oh, in a very few days you stopped looking like her.
Oh.
No, you don't look anything like her. Are you kidding?
I didn't meet her. I only know Aunt Tilly. Actually, a question there. So Aunt Tilly, I remember visiting her.
And she visited us. She visited us.
That I don't remember.
She used to walk in and say, well, when are we going to leave?
I don't remember her visiting. Was she making a joke, or is that she really wanted to leave?
No, that was her, the way she approached things. I know,
I remember visiting her, and I don't know if it was an apartment or an old age home.
I remember an old age home, but not being able to go in to see her.
Yeah, we waited in the car a few times.
Yes. That's when she was down in lower Manhattan, middle of Manhattan. Now that I know these things, since I'm an ombudsman, and I know what.
So did she live in Manhattan?
Well, she lived
Before
when
she
they gave
was-
up the apartment, and the other one had died because I think the other one,
Dora.
Dora, I think she was very sick, too sick to come to our wedding, living in a. I didn't even visit her in her whatever she was, or I don't know what
Were
the
they in the
time.
Bronx or were they in Manhattan by that time?
Well, they still had the apartment in Manhattan
Oh, it's in
because
Manhattan.
Tilly was there alone by now, and then she was moving out of that.
When you say the apartment, is it where they grew up?
Near the Yankee Stadium, very, very close to there.
That's in the Bronx.
Very close.
That's in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Manhattan.
No.
So they lived in the Bronx, where they grew up. You say the apartment was it one that?
No, they moved there when I was born. I didn't
Oh.
know that, but that's it was.
Oh, I see. Okay. So then Tilly, I don't remember her dying. I guess we visited her. I remember visiting her, and then I don't remember when she died.
I don't remember. Nobody even knew that she died. They didn't have anybody at a funeral or anything. I don't know. Nobody knew of her anymore. Of friends and.
Wait, she died after Grandpa or before? Before Grandpa.
Before.
Oh, and no one knew of her brother?
Well, he knew. We knew it. I'm saying. but not, we didn't have 10, 20, 30, 40 people.
Oh, you went to the funeral.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
not.
you said
it was-
nobody went to the funeral.
Well, it wasn't,
Right, she was old, in other words. So she didn't have a lot of friends.
yeah.
Is that what you mean? Oh.
Yeah, and she had been separated from everybody by then, and
What do you mean?
people died off and moved away,
Oh.
and
Okay. And so,
she was, the old jokes that always not good feeling between my mother and those two aunts, and they were,
Oh.
well, I don't want to get into that aspect of it, but my mother always said that Tilly was a good-looking, good, attractive woman, and she was, and I didn't realize that. And she had for some reason or other, she had sort of darker skin. I guess like somebody in Israel would have, But she had and she was the one who always took me to movies and the museums and so on. I always went with Aunt Tilly to go to places, and that people always thought that I was her son when I would go there.
do you have pictures of her when she was younger? I remember her being old with thick
I
glasses.
don't have them right here. Yes, I got them
You don't have to give them to
in a
me.
box. I want your mother, to sort out all these tens of thousands of pictures so you can have
My
all
mother.
Huh?
My mother.
Your mother.
Well, she knows, not her family.
No, I wanted to take the brown pictures
Oh.
and the so-and-so. Anyway, I don't want to get off on that aspect of it.
Can
But
you
yes,
tell-
I have pictures of all of these people, and
Okay.
taken on the roof of the 5-story building where they lived
Oh, okay. In the Bronx.
in the Bronx.
So can you tell us a little bit about the Dora Tilly not getting married situation? Or do you know?
What I'm saying now is I understand it as an adult. And Dora controlled everything there. And she controlled everything.
And in a bad way.
And not in a way that, and that's why my father didn't get married till it was so late, and then Tilly didn't, and she didn't, and
How old was your father when he got married?
not as old as I was, but I got married.
We're getting
But,
to that. We're
I
getting
think
to
it
that.
was, I guess, 30s, something or other, but
How did she stop everyone from getting married?
oh, she controlled them. You have a controlling person in a family. They controlled the mother and controlled everything. She controlled. There are people like that.
What was her, did she have an occupation? I mean, because they were single women,
No,
so did
she
they have to
almost
work?
never worked in her whole life except during the war. She was in some kind of an office where it had nothing to do, like, I don't know, a reception. I don't even know what it was. In the war, they begged people who would never work to please come in, in workplaces. So she worked a little time there, but she never worked. She never did anything.
Well, what about Tilly? Because you said it worked.
Stop
What?
frowning.
No,
Oh, do you have a
it's just not centered, so I just.
Oh,
when you
I
moved
moved?
over.
Oh, you can move it.
Okay, I just
Oh,
wanted to make sure.
No, you're not.
Centered.
Be comfortable.
Okay. Oh, that's much brighter. That's good.
You said that at work people called Tilly a different name, so that they called her Maddie. So what was her job?
what did I call her?
No, what was her job that they were calling her?
What was her what?
Where was she working that they were calling her Maddie?
She worked in different kinds of offices.
Office work.
She's the first person I knew who would bring me stuff from offices, like paper clips and.
Yeah, the kids love that.
You know.
The kids. Oh, I'm gonna pause it for a second, Mr. Cameron.
When I went to visit my father at work when I was a kid,
Which work was what?
I don't know, it was something related to the clothing industry. He was in an office, and he was a salesman before he got married, and used to go up to Boston and do all kinds of. Anyway, when I went to visit him once at work, and I was very little, and I remember so distinctly, I had been to stores with my mother and I saw cash registers, okay? And I went to my father's store, and they sat me at some desk, and there was a typewriter. And before that, they had always said, well, Daddy has to go to work, Daddy has to, make money. So first different days when he didn't take me. Daddy has to go to work and make money so we can have, So when I sat down at the typewriter, I thought that was a cash register. That he sat down and he made money.
Oh.
And he made money. That's what he did every day. He said that, and then
Put lots of zeros in today, Daddy.
Isn't it? Pardon me?
Put lots of zeros in today, Daddy.
Yeah, but isn't that something the kids don't? They all had keys, right? Was that the old cash registers?
That's funny.
But he didn't type or anything like that, Now he was left-handed,
Oh, I
My
didn't know
father,
that.
my father was left-handed, and in those days everybody had it right-handed, so they forced him to write. And his right hand, he wasn't bad, but everything that he taught himself, when fixing something, hammering something, doing everything he taught, used his left hand. But in school, he had to use his writing. He was amazingly good. Both of my parents had very good handwriting, which I couldn't read it. No, I couldn't read it because it's funny as a kid. And before I went to school, I would try to copy it, and I'd go, and I thought that was real writing.
Greta does that here.
But that's it.
So your father, did he go to college?
No, but the interesting thing is he graduated from high school, and boy, in those days, when my mother, because I don't think any of my mother's brothers completed high school. But in any event, when my mother found a guy who had a high school diploma, that was a high class. No, really, you don't. In those days,
Okay.
and he studied Latin in high school and so on.
Where did he go to high school? In the Bronx? Public school?
Somewhere down in Manhattan.
Oh, what public school they went to?
He went in a building that later on became a building in City College. It was something high school. I don't know. I don't know what it was. They never told me anything.
You didn't take a video of them?
We didn't even take a. Okay.
I'm sorry
yes,
to interrupt,
please.
but you said your dad took Latin. Did either parents speak another language, or their parents speak fluently in another language?
Well, they didn't speak another language, but they both understood Jewish. And my father's family didn't speak anything but English, at home. But down in the Lower East Side, where my mother's family was, people spoke Yiddish or Jewish and so on and so forth, although they all spoke English.
Do they speak German?
But who?
Anybody?
I don't know. I never heard a German word in my father's family. They were trying to be high class. I don't know.
Yiddish was high class?
No, not. They didn't speak Yiddish. They never. They were.
Your father's family.
The daughters would. I'm sure with Dara, Aunt Dorothy, whatever. Everything was high class English, and you got to be. That's.
Now, why didn't she get married? She just couldn't find a husband?
I don't know. I don't know if they ever. I never even knew that they dated. I guess Tilly must have dated, but Dorothy ever. And I don't know. My father had some dates, and they messed up everything. That's all. They messed up everything.
Who they?
In that family,
Oh.
Right.
Well, how did your parents finally meet then?
Don't know.
You don't know how your parents met? Oh.
Or maybe a dance or something. I don't know.
Okay.
And I guess my mother said, "Oh boy, somebody from a high-class family from up in Manhattan, and they weren't in the Bronx yet, and oh boy, and he has a high school diploma, and she thought she'd get out of that Lower East Side, so-and-so, try to be." And then,
Well, that's a good segue into your mother's side. But do you have any more questions about it?
Well,
Grandpa?
about your parents together after they got together, did you ever experience them being madly in love with each other when you were younger, or did you see them cutesy?
when I was very, very young, I used to hear them talking in bed, and it was always so. I couldn't understand what they were saying but it always felt it was good that they talked at night. in bed, but not. I don't remember anything much more than that. I thought that was so nice.
Were they in love?
In love?
Yeah, like did you?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know how you define that.
Well, did you
I
feel like
didn't
they
know.
were in love? I don't know.
Well,
Did he bring her flowers and Valentine's Day? Was it romantic? Was there ever...
no. Well,
Well, they stayed married for the whole
the
time.
only one time I remember, I guess he had to, in the Depression, he had to. What do? You take something, you get money. I can't remember the word. You go to what kind of a shop when
Oh,
you
like a pawn shop?
pawn shop, and you had to pawn. I don't know if it was her wedding ring or she didn't. I don't think she had a engagement ring, whatever it was. And then when he had managed to, in the terrible Depression, I didn't know how bad thing, and he managed to get enough money, and he got it back, and he gave it to her, and she thanked him. She was crying, and that this was that thing. I didn't know what was going on, but that's the only time that's a touchy kind of a thing.
Oh, I do have more questions about
He
you.
said,
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry.
what he did, she was not a kid either when she died. When we looked at her in the coffin there, my father said, look how young she looks, what a great skin and how nice she looked, and even though she had been blind and sick and all those other things. She says, amazingly. Well, you don't want me to get into my mother aspect.
I do, but I have one more question about your father.
Go ahead, ask another.
Sorry, I want to try and let us go naturally, but I don't want to forget that. So your father his occupation was what? I know he had many different
Many
jobs,
occupations.
But what was the sequence of events?
Oh, I don't know. The only thing that I know is he worked for this company. I guess it was in sales down, in the early, before we really got into the Great Depression. And then my parents opened up a store in Upper Manhattan, a ladies' hat shop in the Depression, and it worked pretty well. It worked pretty well. And then from then, my father had a crummy little nothing job with his longtime friend, and they sold like automobile paints and things for. They didn't sell them to people. They sold to guys who repaired cars, and all the specials that. And then.
Who's his friend?
Pardon me?
What's his friend's name?
What was his friend's name?
Yeah, I didn't know he had any friends.
Jack Edison. And they were very close, like my friend Sandy and I were close. It seems that Edison really had a lot of money for what, he I don't want to get into that aspect of it. Then during the war, my father worked for the Naval Supply Depot in Bayonne, and he went all the way down from the Bronx there every day.
That's okay.
And I didn't know how it was during the war. And after that, he worked in a place that I said sold moldings and picture frame materials, all the wood type of things, that, and in a nothing job, just packing up stuff and that's about all that's what he did.
What did they do mostly in your childhood? Was it the moldings?
My childhood?
Yeah. They had
I remember the most was the ladies' hat shop.
Okay, that's what I remember you telling me.
Yeah, the ladies' hat shop and the ladies' millinery. And people wore hats.
Right.
And can you imagine when that fell apart, when I don't know exactly when that fell apart, but anyway,
JFK didn't wear
can you
that?
believe that there were signs in ladies'
Yeah.
millinery store windows that said, "Don't be a Jap, wear a hat"?
A Jewish American princess?
Yeah,
So that's what JFK didn't wear the hat. That's what made everyone stop wearing hats, right? That's what I always heard. The dropping of the hat.
I used to have a lot of real hats, men's, boys' hats. I don't want to get into that, but anyway, and That's it. We never had a car. We go places by boat or by boat. Listen, well, bus and train and different places. We did a lot of walking. We work up in the Bronx, up one side of the Bronx, across a bridge, down Manhattan, and back on another side. That many miles, but I didn't think of anything about that.
To go somewhere, or just to
Just
go
to
for a
go
walk?
and see all kinds of things.
Oh.
You know, we worked up to Yonkers. We worked up to so and so.
You walked up to Yonkers?
Yeah, we did all
With your
kinds.
parents?
Yeah, we were northern Bronx, and you know, we no big deal.
Well, you grew up in the. I thought you grew up in the South Bronx.
In the
Where did you grow up in the Bronx?
Western Bronx, West Bronx.
What's the neighborhood?
Not quite northern.
Oh, I thought you were in the South Bronx by Yankee Stadium or by Fordham.
Well, in between those two.
Okay.
I could walk down to Yankee Stadium, and I could walk up to Fordham, and
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Fordham is north. Okay.
okay.
Now you say your father was a salesman. So was he the
I don't
person?
know.
Well, was he? I didn't ask the question yet. Was he the personality of a salesman? Was he a schmoozer, charming guy who was a salesman personality, or was that just a job?
I don't know. We didn't sell it to. Well, he did have a pretty good style in the ladies' hat shop. He did have a good manner.
Right, when you
That-
were in social, like when you went out, did you talk to people at a pancake breakfast?
Just thinking.
Was he that kind of person?
No, I don't think he was. No, he was not.
A schmoozer?
No. No,
Like
I
mommy's
never.
dad.
Yeah, like mommy's dad,
Oh no,
who was
no,
a
nothing.
person who was charming and talked to everybody.
No,
Oh.
no.
Can I pause it to go to the bathroom? Or you can keep asking questions if you want.
Go.
Oh, you're right. It's not on there. That's why. Okay, go ahead.
I never found out where my parents' family, where my mother's family came from in Europe. I knew it was Romania. Where my father's family came from. I never found out the names of the cities or villages. And there's someone said that during the war those places got damaged and didn't exist anyway. But I understand now you can trace places to where my mother's family was in Romania, and but I never really did find out where. You know, give me some idea that where you were over there. That's all. And I never knew where they. You know, one was Romania and one was Germany, but I didn't know where they were. I always felt I didn't know
So your mother's side was more from Romania?
Romania.
Both her parents? Both of her parents?
That's what I understand.
And they were born there, and your mother
Was
is
born.
questionable.
Well, yeah. The thing is, when I would want to give my mother a birthday card or a present, I think it was January 13th or 18th, or whatever we did, it was always, I never could get from her when her birthday was, if she said, well, when we were young, they didn't record all the birthdays. People were born at home and often different, and it's so and so. And if I give her a card on the first one, she says, my birthday's later, and I didn't give her anything, and I was waiting for the second day. She says, you missed my birthday, and I was, but they played, everybody there played such games with their birthday. Even my own cousins, they played games with the kids when they took them to school. They wanted, I cannot tell you, when they got married, the numbers were switched around. All I gotta say is, I don't know what the heck, I don't know exactly when she was born. I never knew not just the year, but the exact date and so on and so forth. So I think, as my cousins that said, you know what it was. She wasn't telling your father that she wasn't born in the United States.
Oh,
That she kept saying was in New York City.
okay.
And I think that's what really happened. She came here as a very tiny child, and I don't know what they...
They wanted her to be a citizen instead of having to apply to be a citizen. Okay, I think a lot of people did that. I think Mommy's mother did that too. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think so.
See that on the film about Mommy.
Yes.
But I know there was a question of whether Mommy or Grandma or Aunt Margie were born here. Somebody
Yeah,
was.
that's the kind of stuff that people used to do then.
I think people were born on the boat and they didn't know
Yeah.
what that qualified as. People came over pregnant. Okay, so she was born here and grew up on the Lower East Side. You said earlier, right?
Who did?
Your mother?
I guess it was the Lower East Side. Yeah.
You guess?
Because I know that's when they lived down there. Even as
What's the neighborhood now? Do you know?
it's still Lower East Side, but it's changed. It was a lot of different people. It was Italians, Jews, this and that, and now it's all.
Is it 5 Points? Was it 5 Points at that time?
No, it's the place, a block away where Eddie Cantor grew up, and all those famous people lived in the, in the Lower East Side. The tenements. It's really
Okay.
it's
I don't know what it is now.
so.
Okay, so she grew up down there with her 9 or 8 siblings, right?
Yes, 8 siblings.
And her parents did what was their occupation?
What were their occupations? I don't know that. I do know that my grandmother, that my mother's mother, and two of the sons, had a little store down there, which was like a hardware store, but not really. They sold pots and pans and all kinds of other things like that, and then that lasted a while, and then one by one the sons moved to their own jobs, and after they gave up the store, I don't know if my grandmother was. I think my grandmother was still alive, but if she was virtually completely blind because of her own cataracts, and so the son Solly, he put it out on a push cart, and every day he sold from that, and then the push carts got Mayor LaGuardia stopped having all the push carts. They built buildings to have the people have different stalls. Why have it out in the coldest weather and the rottenest rainy weather? You don't know what it was like selling from a push cart.
I bet.
365 days a year. But the funny thing about it was when they built this building over there, the city something or other, and everybody had a nice place to build this stuff in it. By a certain date, they had no more push carts on the. You couldn't park a car in those streets. It was all put with push carts. Anyway, when they got in there, all the people who had been out in the terrible weather were healthy. When they got inside, they all caught cold.
Oh, because they were near each
They
other?
were all, yeah. Can you imagine that? They lived under this terrible, and my uncle.
Where was this stall place?
Where was the what?
This building with all the stalls in it. Is that something that they did in several places in New
Well,
York?
they did a couple, but it's right there in the Lower East Side. Yeah, that's still there, I believe. It's a.
Was it kind of like a mall in a way?
Like sort of.
Food court?
Yeah, that's right. Like a
flea market, right?
Yeah,
Like
like
a flea market.
But it was not temporary. You rented it. It was you always were there. You had your place. You could still get good stuff there, because every one of these markets was fresh and.
Oh, it had food.
Oh yeah, different. Well, the foods were over here, and the so and so was over there, and it was.
Well, what is it called now? The place? You say it's still there.
I don't know.
Okay.
The city market or something like that. I don't know.
That's interesting. I didn't know.
Maybe they're gone because of all the things. Now all different kinds of markets, commercial.
Yeah.
The way we have up here everywhere. I don't know. But that was interesting,
And so your mother, so her parents came to this country from Romania, right?
that's my understanding is. Did you want to see their picture? You want to hold the camera?
I can do that after, if you want.
You can.
And I can edit it in if you want.
You can. Oh, if you only. I only got a hold of that picture. I told you a few years ago. I didn't know that.
A picture of what?
Of my mother and her mother.
Oh.
I guess there were no other children in the family then.
Oh, why? Because she was the oldest. Oh.
She was the oldest one, but she was little. She was little. I'm guessing that she wasn't even 3 in that picture.
Oh. So they all grew up 9 kids in an apartment?
Well, yeah, and all what it's like. Well, different kinds of apartments in different ways, and It wasn't fun. But some of the places, I didn't see it, but you know what these apartments were like? You didn't even have your own toilet in your own apartment. It was down the hallway, and the whole, you know what the tenements were like. People
No, I don't know.
well, you know, you went down. You're lucky you get to the bathroom. I'll be right there.
You think there's an airport here?
Sure, that's the big.
Stewart?
Yes.
That was a little plane, though.
Well, a lot of planes, and we all
Oh.
come. Anyway, so that's it, and they all did all the sons did different kinds of things. They're involved in all kinds of different things, but
And you say that mostly they didn't graduate high school because they went to
I'm
work?
sure they didn't graduate any.
And your
Even though
mother
some
did?
of them, even though I spotted that some of them were very smart. My uncle Saul was a pretty smart guy. They was really smart. Had high IQs. They did things, but I don't think that they.
And your mother did not graduate from high school?
I don't know. I don't know. I think she said she was doing accounting work, when I know when she got jobs. So I think that she must have had at least some high school. She was good enough to do those kind of very smart lady.
And how old was she when she met your dad? How old was she when she met your dad?
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Huh?
You don't know. Oh, she was
You know.
was she older?
No, you know.
Regular?
No,
Regular
like,
age?
they were in their 30s, you know.
That's old at that time, right?
Yeah, in those days.
And your mother was very artistic, from what I understand, right?
Yes, I happen to have here some pictures of her. She was interviewed on television,
What?
on radio, and in magazines. And so I didn't keep all the stuff together, and the only thing I have right there is that she made that statue over there, which after she was blind. But
Please hold.
and there's a little booklet about. But she was interviewed. It's heavy, very, very heavy.
Tried to pick it up with one hand.
It looks like Popeye.
Looks like Popeye. Can the
Wait,
camera see it?
Yeah.
Left. Your other left. Oh yeah, there we can see it.
Should I get it closer? It's very heavy, and it looks like a sailor.
It looks like
Yeah.
Popeye.
It does look like Popeye.
So she did make a lot of things after she was blind. In fact, she did. Would you believe that she did pictures after she was went completely blind? She took ballpoint pens and kind of like
Oh yeah, we had
drew them. I don't know. I don't understand.
We had a picture that she drew
And she
of
was-
like an old man on our wall, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So but I lost some of those. I think people said it was so great that she did things like this, but she did more things, very creative things after she didn't have much of a life left. But she did more things then than she did when she was younger. People said she was good looking too, which I didn't think any of those things, because she didn't. I used to say, why don't you dress like people dress, or do so. Now I know there was a depression, but you can still do things. You know what I mean?
How did
So
you
hair
dress?
was like this, and then bound up in the back with a bun. And I says, oh, I hate that.
How did she dress that's not like people?
What I meant is style-wise and so on. Even though
Was it frumpy?
even if you have zero money, you can do it.
Was she looking frumpy or messy or
No.
outdated?
Yeah. I don't know. Yes.
Okay.
Did I ever tell you? Are we talking about my mother now?
Whatever you want.
We had a photograph on the wall of my mother playing tennis with somebody before she was married. I don't know when the people were and why we had that. She was married, and I looked at her picture, and her hair was sort of, the style came out like sort of like this. That's the only way I can explain it. And I used to look at that picture, and then I looked at pictures of George Washington, like on a $1 bill, with the same kind of hair that comes out like this. And I always thought my mother looked like George Washington playing tennis. I mean, really. So, but then after a while, she got her hair done in different ways, and that's okay.
Has she had blue eyes like you? I remember
I don't remember because she was getting blind, so I was in my teens. I don't.
I thought
Yes,
she had
I
blue or
understand.
green
She had the. Yeah, I think that's right. I think the dark eyes came from my father's side of the family.
So you say your mother's mother also went blind. Was your mother had cataracts the same thing, or did you have something else?
Yes, cataracts too, and
at a young age.
Yes, and
did her mother have him at a young age also?
Yeah, well, she was still working sort of in the store when my grandmother, when she had this, and then she didn't go out for years. Though it was years and years she stayed in the apartment, and I remember the last time I thought she went out on the street was the last day of World War II. She lived a little bit after that, but to go out because everybody went out on the day that World War II was over, everybody came out on the street, even if you hadn't been out for years.
And what did they have, a party, like a celebration?
Oh, up and down the street. Yeah.
Was it unorganized?
That'll go on another tape. It'll tell you why everybody's happy that World War II is over, and that was one of the worst days in my life. And for a lot of other reasons, I know this is another, that could write a whole chapter.
Can you give us the Reader's Digest condensed version? Why was it the worst day of your life?
No, I mean, I was happy that the war was over and so on and so forth. Don't get me wrong about that, but it was that will be in our next tape.
Can you give us a hint?
Huh?
Can you tell us now a little bit? Something bad happened on that day? Okay, you don't have to.
Did anything come out?
Okay, you don't have to tell us if you
No,
don't want to.
did anything come out of my mouth at that time?
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, I was working in a war plant in the summer, and that ended. It ended like on a one-day notice.
Oh, because the war was over.
Which I understood, and I didn't get another job for the rest of the summer because I was going to go back to, back to school. And I don't know. It was. Someday I'll give you the story.
Okay. All right, we'll get that on the follow-up tape. So your mother had all these 8 siblings, and 8.5 siblings, I guess, one that we.
Yeah, okay.
So now, when you were growing up, and your father's sisters had no kids, so your cousins were all your mother's, from your mother's side. So they were all of your cousins. Where did they live when you were growing up? They still were in Lower Manhattan, or in the Lower East Side. But you spend a lot of time with them while you were growing up?
Oh, once a week I'd go down with my
That's a lot.
with my mother. I think now, again, I have all this adult perspective of it. She went down. I think she helped clean up my grandmother's and my uncle's apartment there, and I think that one of my uncles gave us some money. And my father, it was a depression, and I think there was some disputes about, sometimes my mother would say, well, we're going to stay over here tonight. And I don't think my father knew who I was until that moment that I think they had an argument, and so I would stay down there overnight, Saturday to Sunday or whatever.
With your mother?
Yeah, and I don't know. I did understand what was going on, but there was... I didn't understand what was going on, but anyway, I love to visit my cousins. I absolutely love to visit my cousins. And
so, how many cousins did you have that were there? Because you have Sidel and Elaine, and Charles, and
Marilyn, who died a couple of years ago.
Who was her parent?
Well, Jack and Celia.
Oh, Celia was Jack's
And I understand she had a second child who didn't live a boy, but we never saw him. I don't know what. And then they broke up. Jack and Celia. It's a very Marilyn, as I said, died a couple of years ago.
Who's the parent of Michelle?
Saul.
Of Charles and Michelle?
And Michael. Michael and Michelle and Charles were the three children of
I don't know
him.
Michael.
And Ethel was their mother.
Saul and Ethel?
Saul and Ethel. Who was a good-looking lady.
So all these cousins were down on the Lower East Side, so when you went down there, you had all these kids to play with?
Well, different ones, different times. Mostly Sidell. Mostly Sidell. And her...
Why mostly Sidell? Were you at Etty's house?
Well, we
or
were...
Did she live near your grandmother?
No. Well, the one person who really... Sidell's mother sort of was the one who brought all the news and information into the grandmother was living in the apartment and wasn't getting out, and she controlled, it's when you control communication, boys, so the whole, and I didn't know that Sidell's mother and my mother never got along, and it was always, which we say it, they were saying about whose kid is smarter and better, and I didn't know about any of this. But anyway, but Etty and Etta, she controlled the situation because she controlled the situation because she brought all the information into the grandmother. When one of the boys was going out with somebody, they thought they were going to marry the girl. My grandmother didn't know what the girl was like, so she got all this misinformation, and it ruined a lot of their married lives too.
So your mother was the oldest, and Etty was the youngest. So what's the?
She wasn't the youngest.
Oh, sorry, I had it on my
Edith
list.
was the youngest.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I had them on.
No, I gave it to you wrong.
Okay, that's right.
But Etty was also young. She was also young. Anyway, her father, Etty's. I'm mixing up now. There's Ethel and there's Etty.
Right.
Two different people.
So, yeah, were your mother's parents, your grandparents, alive when you were young?
Only the grandmother.
Only the grandmother on that side too.
She was gone before before my mother even met my father.
Who?
Her father.
The father. Oh, okay. So you never met your grandfather.
Never.
Oh. Do you have any stories about playing with your cousins? I know Herbie was your one colorful cousin.
No. Well, when I say colorful, what do you mean by that?
Well, you always tell us stories about how he erased his paper with his shoe and...
Isn't that funny? I got on a piece of paper here, and that's one of the things I wrote down. All different ways to use an eraser, and how my cousin Herbie... I've got to answer that. I'm going to pick that up. Try to get... Can you do that?
I guess
Can
so.
you focus?
This is, yeah. This is my father's... Oh, now there's a reflection if I do it like that. This is my father's mother and her mother. Let me hold
Which
it.
we call Bubby.
Oh, okay. You called your grandmother Bubby.
That grandmother.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I don't know if you can see the picture. Okay, there you go. That looks good. Kendra, we're running a little low on... Oh. Go ahead.
Now, what was your question just now? What was the question?
I was
Kendra.
curious why people didn't smile back in those days.
Why didn't they smile? One of the reasons is
That's
it took longer to take a picture, and they say, keep still and just hold still. And people couldn't remain with a fake smile for a period of time. May have taken, several seconds so you just, okay, your guard shot, you got the picture yet? Okay.
I don't know,
Is that a
it's
good,
so sad.
that's and they didn't, the other thing is even in portraits, fine. People didn't smile in those days for pictures.
Oh, people smiled, though.
I'm assuming that people smiled since the beginning of history.
I don't know. That people didn't smile in those days.
I mean, people have been smiling. Okay.
So you were saying off camera that you got along best with Sidell, your cousin.
Yeah, and
Yes, we always liked her.
yeah,
too.
her mother did fake up her birth certificate also, so she could get her in earlier to school, so she could start 6 months earlier. But she was really 3 months older than I am, and then it was always the kind of thing. But we did a lot of jokes together, and we did a lot of other things. Very, smart cookie, and she was a teacher all those years when she was married.
Now they lived in Lower East Side when you were younger, and then was she always there even when you were teenagers, or where did she live?
Yeah, I think when she was still going to City College, or where she
did you go together?
College, a couple of places.
Did you ever go to school with her?
No, never went to school with her. Never went to school with her. But and she never saw me in plays when I was in school, and I never saw her in plays. But we were natural, outgoing kind of kids, so we had parts in plays, and we'd tell each other about.
You were an outgoing kid? You were an outgoing kid? I guess we didn't get to you yet, but I did not know that.
What do you say? Well,
I didn't know that.
What? A lot of. I don't know what that's the right word.
Well, you said that, so that's. And so Sadell is also known as the one who tickles Kendra.
She did?
Oh, you don't remember? Okay, I was gonna have you told
I don't
us.
remember either.
She tickled Kendra when?
Can you see me?
No.
You can lift it up like this. Yeah, I'm going to tell about how she tickled Kendra, because apparently you don't know. You can put it back on Daddy as soon as I tell about
how do I lower it again?
Just push it, just push it.
It's just your head. Go ahead.
Just my head? Just
Go ahead.
A big giant head? Go ahead. Oh, we had a 50th wedding anniversary for your parents? 25th? 50th, right? Wedding anniversary party for your parents, Grandma and Grandpa? At the
Yes.
Stella D'Oro place?
Yes.
And
In northern Manhattan.
Bronx. And Kendra was probably like 2, and I was 5. And Sadell tickled Kendra a lot during it, so then forevermore Sadell was known as the one who tickles you, the one who tickles you.
Oh, that's how I remembered her.
And I remember a lot of the people there too. Saul was there with glasses that flip. The sunglasses flip up, and we had cookies there because it's the Stella D'Oro. And I remember that whole thing like it was yesterday. I was 5, and Kendra was a little kid that everyone liked to play with and was cute. You can pause it. I'll put it back on Daddy.
Came out and sold their own cookies. They were just a restaurant because we knew it. They were a good restaurant.
Oh, they didn't have cookies? Yes, they did. Because I ate them when I was a very little kid. Why can't I zoom in now? I guess that's it. Okay, it's on. I'm just talking. Okay. Yeah, they had cookies. We used to eat those cookies when we were little.
All right.
But maybe just locally.
Are you on?
You're on.
You're on.
Okay. Shoot me another question.
I actually wanted to ask about who was it that stole money and ran away to California?
Well, we didn't say stole money.
Yeah, okay,
It was-
tell us.
Lou and Kitty and my 2 cousins, Alan and Herbie. And they went there about 1940 before the war began. And I don't know she didn't steal money. She was, I don't know, working for some offbeat guy who was not exactly crooked, but was crooked or whatever. And I don't know, they took off and they went to L.A., which was a good place to go to in 1940 because that was the thing. And they decided to stay there. And that's the end of the story. That's Kitty.
What did they do there?
Huh?
What did they do there?
Why did they do
What
that?
did they do? What was their job?
Oh, out there they had some different kinds of businesses selling, I don't know, like different kinds of clothes and stuff. I don't know all the different things that
Not in Hollywood. Not in the film industry.
Oh, no.
So was
She was a
Alan?
very smart lady. Kitty was just, and they were so nice to me when I stayed out there in the summer of 1953 when I was, the summer of 1953, and Kitty was. You know why the Bloomfields didn't like her? Because she was too smart and too good, and you know, she was a snappy, wonderful woman, and Louis was a nice guy and an intelligent guy, but he didn't do it. He was kind of lazy. She was the stronger person in the family. She wasn't dominant over him, but she was the one we all loved. Kitty was a great person. That's all. And now you know why you're named after her.
And she wasn't even related by blood.
Huh?
She wasn't related by blood, and you liked her better.
She was absolutely. Of all of the various people that all the brothers married, she was the best woman.
And you like the two boys too, Herbie and Alan.
Yeah.
Herbie was older,
He's 1 year older than I.
and he's no longer alive, or he is?
He died a couple of years ago.
Oh.
Just a couple of years ago, and
So besides the eraser, did he do other? He did other silly things, right? I know he did other things. I don't remember the eraser.
you know, he was bigger than I was. Bigger. I don't understand exactly what went on, but they say there was bigger. That they said he was. That he wasn't a strong. He wasn't. How am I going to say this? He wasn't anyway. And so when he got into in the army, in the service, he had done something bad in the training, but his commander liked him, and he said, "Look, I'll let you get out of this without a court-martial. I've got a list here. I need to recommend some people to go to be parachute jumpers in another. They're going to send you over to another place. Now I'll let you get out of here. You won't have any kind of." I think he had hit a lieutenant or something. I don't know what it was, but anyway, and my cousin Herbie was just the last person in the world would want to jump out of a plane. You know, he was a I don't know how to say it, not shy and not, I don't know. But anyway, he went and he did that. He had to get out of there, and he liked it so much that he would jump. He loved to do parachute jumping. He put a camera in his uniform. We're not supposed to do that, and go up and come down and take pictures. And he did all kinds of things that he wasn't supposed to do. And he was sort of became a kind of a guy that you thought was not a weak kind of a guy. I say weak because he was, you know, big, but he became a mensch. That's you know, that's all. So that's Herbie. And I can't get Sandy over here to stop calling me Herbie, and Pat calls me Herbie. I said, "I'm not Herbie, that was my cousin. But then we're both from the same grandfather, that's why it's the Herbie." And even his middle name, I forgot what it was, but it's the same, something like my middle name, because it came from my mother's father.
Oh.
Now, was Alan the only one that got into acting, or did Herbie ever?
Herbie didn't get into acting, no. I forgot what he did. He worked. Herbie. Oh, another story about Herbie. When he was graduating high school, I think it was on the West Coast. I forgot what kind of a trouble he got into, an argument with the principal or something or other. So you can't come to the graduation now. Or you do so and so. If you don't, he says, "Well, the heck with you." So he didn't go to the graduation. They had his diploma. They couldn't keep his diploma. He was, you know, he graduated. He had and he never went back to get his diploma. Screw you all. And so that's Herbie. And but he never got into acting. But you know the story about Alan, who was. He got some kind of a palsy disease or something, and there was something in his mouth and was.
Bell's palsy.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I didn't. I think he was about 15. He even sent him back to the East Coast because they thought some doctor could help him, and he really couldn't. And he was really the good-looking, adorable one of those. Was he? He was, younger than I. About 5 years, 6 years younger than I. Anyway, as he told me himself recently. Remember me telling the story that as he got older. And he had this, and he wanted to do some acting. He did this, and when he got to be known in the movies by the directors and by the people on television, the directors, oh yeah, get us him. I liked his face. He's got this kind of a sideways face, and he says that opened doors for him. He was different.
Oh, so he still has that? I didn't notice that on that.
Oh, yes, he still has it. When I looked at him many times when he's sleeping, and it somehow he relaxes there. He was married twice.
Wait, when did you look at him when he was sleeping?
Huh?
When did you see him sleeping?
Well, when I was out there, other times I've seen him. I've seen him sleeping.
Oh, he had that since he was a kid?
About 15 or 14.
Oh.
So, but the thing is, married twice, and now his second wife, I just spoke to him the other day. She's in a nursing home. She had some, all kinds of things, but she's nearby there. He's still doing little things. I mean, I told you, he was on, you saw him, didn't you?
I know him, yeah.
And I think I also have another thing with a little movie that he was in, but he was in he was in a lot of things that he needed an older guy with a kind of a, one of the guys, so he's...
Have we figured out what he was in Seinfeld? Because I feel like he was the polar bear guy.
He was the polar bear guy.
That told the joke about the king. Okay,
the kangaroo. That's him.
Okay. I didn't see that one. He was in...
I showed it to you. You saw it at our house.
You told me that. I saw him
you saw it.
I saw him in other things, in other TV programs.
He was on the Golden Girls, too.
Golden
he
Girls.
Was a boyfriend of, one of the many boyfriends of the mom.
Yeah, so that...
And he was on
commercials. And the thing is, he was saying to me the other day on the phone that now he's making more money. He's not working anything. Well, he does, once in a while he does, acting things. But he's not, he's retired, right? He has more income than he's ever had. Because his income, his Social Security is coming in, and all of these things, because he was in the union and so on, he gets, every time they run someone of these old movies, he gets a check for some kind of a, I think when he did Golden Girls, I think he went in there and did not even a full day, and they paid him $400, but by the end of the week he was getting $1,600 because they reran it, and then they still, and I've known other people like this, and they say, oh gee, they must be running my movie somewhere, giving me, because that's the way, they didn't do that for me because I was only an extra. You know what I mean? I was not in the union.
What's the difference is that you have to speak?
Well, no. No, not necessarily. But there's a lot of difference. Okay, there's a lot of difference. I never pushed it.
What does it say?
I was always told it. And when you get into one of the unions...
Oh, okay. I think we're going to have to put some batteries in.
Okay.
Well, let me just start it. So we left off talking about your cousins, and do you have other things about Daddy's cousins? Other things about your cousins that you wanted to talk about? I don't know exactly where we left off.
No, they were all different and so on, but it was Adele and I who hit it off the most.
So even though you didn't have brothers and sisters, it felt like you...
That was, in fact, I always thought of, if I got married, it would be somebody like her,
Is Mommy like Adele?
Pardon me?
Is Mommy like Adele? You said if you got married, it would be someone like her.
No. Very nice, and our husband is very nice, and they're very active down in Florida now, older than I am by quite a bit, and, well, she's only 3 months older, but in politics, and, the Democratic Party down there, and they're doing all kinds of things with all the other old people down there in Florida.
And where in Florida are they? Where in Florida?
I think Lake. Yeah.
Oh, a lake.
I have it written down somewhere. Westlake, something, I don't know where. The middle of the, I always say it's like the middle of Florida this way and the middle of Florida this way.
Oh, they're not on the ocean?
Well, they're that so close, and they're so close.
Does anyone run away to the circus, or was it the California people that you were talking about? That was
There's
the
no circus running away in your family.
No circus in your family, right?
The what?
No circus?
Circus?
No, mommy's side is the circus, but did you have circus people?
Circus people? No.
I don't know, I had that, Kendra said that, so I wrote that down.
Well, it was the California. I wasn't sure if they ran away to California and the circus or the circus.
No, nothing like that.
That was
Nothing
Mommy's
like
family.
that. They went around. I'm surprised that people didn't come after them. Not that you wouldn't stole anything, but you know. And as I understand, she was the person who had this boss, you know, make the money because she had the brains and he didn't. So maybe that she had a justification. She wasn't getting, you know, enough pay to do all the good things. The heck with that. Let him see what he can do without me. That's my understanding of it, but that's not official.
Oh, okay. And then, so I didn't have more to ask about your mother's side of the family, unless you have more to tell about your mother's side of the family.
My mother's side of the family? I don't know. I don't know what
Let's play with this while we talk.
I don't know what I have nothing more to say about anybody, any side of the family, really.
No good, funny stories, like family
Oh,
stories.
I get it. It's a million funny stories. Every one of us did strange and funny things, you know.
Actually, I had a question about the... Oh, did you have a story to tell?
No.
What about family holidays? Did you go spend them with your mother's family, or...?
We went, I'm going to sneeze. Let's see if this camera can get my sneeze. No, that's okay. We would go Thanksgiving and Passover, we would go to my father's family, which was right a couple of blocks away.
Oh.
And that's where I said that great thing as a child, when we were leaving at the end of the evening. And I was a little kid, I don't know how old I was, and they said, "Did you like the food? Was the food good?" And I said, "What I ate was good, what I didn't eat wasn't good." And my parents quoted that to me until they died. They quoted that back. That's what I said as a kid. A kid has a nice, honest way of saying things. What wasn't good, I didn't eat.
Yeah.
You know, kids are so straightforward. And then we'd go to the other, like the New Year's Eve and things like that. We'd go down to my mother's family, you know, down.
For what? For New Year's?
For New Year's, and we go, because you know, when everybody did all kinds of, you know, stuff down there, we had a lot of fun. The first time I ever did comedy was down there. Sadell and I did something, and by the way, they weren't fans of Fred Allen. You know, I don't know if you ever heard recordings of the Fred Allen show. I hear them every night coming out of Canada and so on. It's a higher intellectual level than Jack Benny and certainly Abbott and Costello. None of those. This is stuff that's still good today. It's so good, and even I liked that then. And my parents listened to that, and we did a skit with all the cousins and so on, and I did the Fred Allen MC of that, because, you know, as I say, most people didn't appreciate that kind of thing, but the thing that we were known for, which we passed on to you, is that Sadell and I and the cousins, we did Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You liked Wizard of Oz.
That's
Like, and we used to do that, and because we didn't have enough people, so we played many parts. You know.
I don't know what this is. I mean, I know
Snow White and the Seven
just
Dwarfs.
the regular Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah, but we did all these things, you know, and that's it. So the first joke, not with my cousin, but the first joke that I remember telling, we had a lot of jokes. So if my aunts would have a boyfriend visit us, we would ask them all kinds of jokes and puzzles, and they said,
the guy, I remember one of the boyfriends saying, these kids are something, they don't stop, they've got every joke in the world. And we were little kids doing it. But I remember the joke that I first remember telling in public. I was in the 3rd grade, and it was time for the day to be over, and we were waiting for the bell to ring and something or other. Everyone was sitting quietly, as they don't do nowadays. And I said to the teacher, I know a joke about something or other, and what it was. And she says, well, what is it? You didn't want me to say something that would have been embarrassing or something. And I said, what is the tallest building in New York City? Do any of you here know what
No, what's the tallest building?
The library. It has the most stories.
Ah.
This is the first joke I told in public. And every day after that, my teacher had us telling jokes before it was time to go out at the end of the day.
Oh, so then other kids started to
Oh,
bring
yeah,
jokes?
everybody. So that was the first joke that
that's
but that's it's a kind of, I bet some of those kids in the 3rd grade didn't get the nuance of that the library has the most stories.
Oh.
But
did
my
anyone
teacher
laugh?
obviously liked it. She said, this is a very,
So then can I start to ask, now that we're sort of segued into it, questions about you then?
Sure, any questions you want to know about me?
So you grew up you were in Manhattan, Upper Manhattan, and then the Bronx, right?
In Bronx, then Manhattan, then back in the Bronx.
And so what was it like growing up then? What kinds of foods did your mother cook?
I don't know. Well, you asked me 2 questions.
I know I did, didn't
Well, I thought everything was okay that she cooked, but not until I got out there I realized it was. And Hannah said to me, where did you live? What kind of food did your mother make? What about when you were married? Because Hannah would make simple foods on a weekday and evening just to have supper. And I said, this is the greatest. She said, what kind of food? She would make a nice, for every Tuesday night meal. And I guess, and then your mother said, well, about herself, she never claimed she was a great cook. Or you said something, anyway.
So what kind of food did your mother cook? Was it Romanian food, or New Yorkie food, or Jewish type dishes, or what is it?
I guess mostly in a Romanian style, which don't ask Romanians that because they wouldn't recognize it. But I'll give you an example. When you go to, you have eggplant. You go to a restaurant now. What is it? It's dipped in something or other. What's it called?
It's grilled and marinated.
Grilled in there?
Yeah.
We never had eggplant like that. My mother would chop it up and she'd make it what I would call green applesauce. She was afraid. She didn't want to leave she couldn't make anything. She couldn't take a pot down to the smallest molecule to see that it's okay.
Was it baba ganoush?
Was it what?
Baba ganoush? Was it like a Middle Eastern thing? Or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But, the meat was kosher and so on. But that didn't mean that we couldn't have, sometimes we had some Chinese food that we brought in, we ate on paper plates and threw away, and various other things. Or when I first went down with my mother down the Lower East Side, when my uncles took us to a big Chinese restaurant, his friend was the owner of the restaurant there. But anyway, and they had pork
On the closet.
Yes.
pork chow mein.
Can you pause it for a second? No? Meat? Oh, but pork chow mein.
Yeah.
And I went to the restaurant and they had pork chow mein, Isn't that what that's...
Yeah, we used to get
And I
chicken chow
took
mein.
one bite and I started to throw up because I was told in Hebrew school you don't have any pork or anything, but we're having it in this restaurant. Of course, now I got over, especially when I went out on my own, I went to restaurants and had all kinds of seafood that I never had. I tried every possible, that's why, and we try to do it with you too. I don't know if you remember, we took you to restaurants and said, well, try. He said, what is this? So I said, try this, and I hope that we've opened doors to you. If you don't like it afterwards, you don't have to, but
Yeah, Kendra liked everything that was not kosher.
yeah, the thing about it, the only thing my father used to say to me if I didn't want to eat something, he'd say, eat it, only try it once. If you die, you'll never have to eat it again.
Oh, that's what you should try with the kids.
Yeah, my kids.
Is that it? So, so where would you want to go from there? You said, what else did I?
Oh, I was just asking about what kinds of foods you had, and so you went to school in the Bronx, and then you went to Bronx Science.
Yeah, I went to kindergarten and beginning there, and then I went to the middle grades over in northern Manhattan, where George Carlin lived. He's younger than I, even before he died.
Oh, even before he died.
And then I came back to the Bronx and went to, again, elementary school and junior high school and the high school, I'm sorry,
No,
you're
that's okay.
the High School of Science.
Now,
And
was there any famous, did you go to school with anybody who became famous later?
a lot of people, but I can't remember who they were. It was a great school, I can tell you now. Up until a few years ago, I said it was a terrible school.
What, Bronx Science?
I should not have gone there.
Why not?
It doesn't matter that, I would have gone to another school and done very, very well. I would have met girls. There were no girls and at the time of my life, and I was saying, we don't have to have girls in school. We have to learn the stuff. And it was wrong. I needed a better social background than I needed stupid school. Not stupid, a smart school, a very smart school, very, very. Some of the things I learned there I'm still using today. In fact, the woman right over this next apartment, her husband died about a year ago now. Gee, I can't believe she. And I met him and I talked to him quite a bit. And he was from went to the High School of Science, and we hit it off. And now I'm friendly with that, which is, it's our gang here, our gang. And she always says all the time, you guys in the High School of Science, you're just like Ted, and so many things she says. I guess it certainly puts a stamp on you when you went to the High School of Science. And there were no girls then, as I said. But it was a good school. But it's not what I wasn't prepared for it. It wasn't right for me. I could have gone to a regular school and been the smartest kid in the school and done all. There I didn't even, I didn't have those higher marks. I didn't understand all was going on there. I would have under other circumstances.
Was it a big application process to get you into there? Or
Yeah, it was so funny. There was a test you had to take, a big test. I think it took a couple of days, and it was writing and multiple choice, and then things you had to write various, write a paragraph about so, I had to do a lot of things. And when we came out of the school, I remember one of we all were from the junior high school together. We went up there, we came back, and one of the people with us was the fellow who was not only in the junior high school Arista, which is the brainy group, he was the head of it. And he came out, we were saying to one another, what did you answer on that question? What did you answer on that question? And from the way what this kid was answering, I said, I knew he wouldn't get in. He was the head of why his mother used to help him do all of his homework and so on. He didn't know anything. And the question, pardon me, that we came out of, I remember answering a lot of questions on the test. And when we asked him, and he looked at blank, and one of the questions, where is the Baseball Hall of Fame? And I said, well, Cooperstown. Now, I'm not a sports fan, right? But I know stuff, right? And I answered, and he says, I don't know I don't know. And I could see that he had no understanding of being able to answer any other questions, and I had an understanding of answering questions left and right that were not necessarily my.
how did you know all these different things?
How did I know that? I'm the kind of a nutty guy who knows all.
You read about stuff.
Yeah, and anything I heard, I learned.
But did you so?
But things out of
Was it
school.
from your parents, or just from your own research?
I don't know. I everywhere I went was a learning experience, and we try to do that with you two girls, as you know. I still tell, just the other day I told about,
we'd pass by with you. Your mother would drive the car, and you say, "See, it's a stop sign. See, it says stop." That's the way we did it with you. Everything was a learning experience. We never sat down with you and rammed stuff down your throat. Is that not true? But everything we tried to have you experience was, and you put it away. So, anyway, so that's the high school science, and
Well, tell us about how you got left back in school because you had the measles and the mumps at the same time or something. This is my version.
I didn't get left back. It was over in Manhattan, up northern Manhattan, public school, 132, and there was something going on, and my mother didn't, even though she was educated in those days, we didn't know. I had two things, chicken pox and measles at the same time, which isn't so, but I've never been able to get the story right. So I was out for more than a month. My mother went to school and said, "What are we going to do?" This was either second grade or third grade. I think it was second grade. She went there to the principal and he looked at it and says, "Don't worry, Mom, your son, he's doing okay. He'll pick it all up again. Don't worry about him. He's okay." So I was not left back. The last part of the story is when I was graduating from college, and they had to send you to places to become a teacher as a, just to, what do they call it? An internship like for a doctor. What do you call it?
A resident or something?
A teacher just to sit with classes and learn what it's like to. What school did they assign me to? To that school.
Oh.
And that very same school that I had been in years and years ago, I had them look up my records to see what my IQ was then and so on. And I spoke to the same principal.
The same principal was there?
Who was still there, and a couple of other things. And I said, "Well, I'm interested in really audio-visual techniques." They didn't have any such thing then, and no teacher was there. So they let me take care of everything, all the equipment and so on. And I had just had so much fun, and that was how I went to the same school. Oh.
Wait, so then you ended up teaching there, or you just for when you were a student? Not did you end up teaching there?
Well, I was, but I already had got I could be a substitute teacher. I already had that license because I figured I'd pick it up along the way. And when I come in the morning there as a student, a college, they said, "Are you working?" I said, "Am I working today for money or for the fun of it?" They said, "Yeah, we need you," and so and so. So they put me in. I'd make the teachers pay one day there at the at that particular school. But I left out the most important part of the story. When I was in the second grade, we were sitting in the auditorium, and they had not a real assembly, but the other day it wasn't a real assembly. It was for the other kids, and they were showing us slides on the screen, old time slides and so. And I don't know what happened. Some kid next to me said something. We said, and some little girls went to the teacher and said, they're talking there, and my second grade teacher says, "Okay, you guys, just for that, you can't even sit. We're going to sit on the side of the platform that's on the stage, so you can't see. You can't see the screen. You're sitting." And I said, "That's okay. Someday I'll use all this equipment in that school." And I went back to that school and I did it, and I dug out that same projector that they had when I was in the second grade for slides to see if it would work, and a few other things I did. And here I was. They kicked me out of the teacher kicked me out of there, and I said, "Someday I'll work all the equipment here and see all that I want."
Oh, welcome
Is
back
that a
up.
pretty good story?
Yeah, that's a good story. So then, where did you meet Sandy Levine? In high school or college?
College and grad school.
Oh, okay.
We had been in the Army at about the same time. He had been down in, I was a teacher down in New Jersey, electronics for radar people, studying radar. And he was down in Panama. And we were about the same time. I had got out before he did, and he came out. He came into a class, and we got to meet. And just as I know the very first words that your mother and I said to each other, he and I remember the first words we said to him. He was going to give a presentation in an audiovisual class, and he says, "Do you have an automatic slide projector?" And I said, "I have a semi-automatic slide projector. You won't have to put them in by hand, but you're going to have to go like this. You won't have to put them in by hand, but you can just." We have a semi-automatic one. That was and he looked at me. I knew what he meant. I didn't have the thing that he wanted. So that was the first exchange we ever had together. And you know what the first words were that your mother and I ever said to each other?
No. That's next on my list, but go ahead.
"I'm going to a divorce lawyer." No, that wasn't the first word she said to me. No, I'm sorry.
I was believing you.
I'm sorry. What she really said to me, I was the audiovisual director at Hunter College, and I had students who worked for me. And different people, they got assigned, they made $1 an hour, whatever. What they did different things. Some of them showed movies in the classroom. Some of them the girls did things in the office. They kept the record of who was ordering what film, and And she came in one day, and she was going to do some typing, whatever it was, and she introduced herself to Mr. She said, "Mr. London, my name is Helen Brown." And I said to her, "Oh, I know a joke about Helen Brown. You never heard this story?" And she says, "I know that joke also." And we both knew the joke. You know the joke?
Yeah. I don't look so good in purple either.
Yeah, the woman doesn't look too good in any other color. That woman looks like Helen Brown. She doesn't look any better in any other color dress. And now I have the recording of the music. Some guys came out with a song called "She Looks Like Helen Brown."
Oh,
And I have that. It goes through all the different colors, but she looks like Helen Brown. So now you know the very first words.
That was your first thing?
I said to her, "I know the joke," and she says, "Yes, I know it too."
So she was hired to work there in the office with you, and then you met her? Or she came in?
That's how I met her.
They assigned her to you. You didn't get to pick her. That's what I'm asking.
No. This was through something through the people assigned students. Maybe we had said we need so many people, and they'd come in and they'd say, maybe sometimes they talk to me, "What do you want to do?" or what skills, so I can type, and so I could do some things like that. So yeah, that's fine. It wasn't really
So she came in there to work, and then how did you start dating?
And have got what?
How did you start dating her? She came in there to work.
I don't think did I ever date her while I was. I don't think I dated her while she was going to school and I was working there.
Okay. How did you start dating her?
I think I went to Jersey City State College as a professor. And then we dated. In other words, I don't think I dated her while I was working there and she was a student. I don't think so. She may tell me something different.
Okay, but so then...
And she may be right.
Okay.
But that's the case. Why would I may have, but why would I have done that? I wouldn't have done that. I didn't date any students. I would not do that. I can't remember.
Okay.
Can we back up like a little bit, because I'm curious. Mommy wasn't your first love, right? Did you have a first love? I was just curious.
What does first love mean?
The first woman that you fell in love with.
This is going to get very serious. I was an old man before I knew what love was. That's all.
So Hannah was your first love?
Huh?
Hannah?
Well, did I understand what was going, what relationship is, yes. I mean, I thought your mother was great, and is great. And even now, when I had to talk to her on the phone or something the other day or something, I had to give her, she wanted to buy another camera. I think as much as she's got a good marriage there, she really does. Now, I know she really does, she misses conversations that she's not having with him. She can't have, she doesn't say, never said this. But, you know, he's not like one of our gang. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I
So-
didn't mean you to put that
That's
there.
okay, we can edit it out. So you met Mommy and you liked her and thought she was great, and then, so how did it come about that you were going to marry her? Because you were, how old when you decided, like, had you always wanted to get married, or you...
Why do you ask me multiple questions?
Well, because I don't know the exact question, but the
Okay.
question is like sort of like, you were a
When
bachelor
I
for
was
a long
very
time.
young, I'm going to cry. When I was very young, I used to have a saying to my parents, listen, when I get married, I'm not going to do this kind of stuff, that I'm going to have kids. And I had this great image that I was going to be different. And I always wanted to get married very young, and I didn't get married very young because I began to realize I was going to make a different kind of a family life and do it a different way. And all I knew was the kind of stupid family life I grew up in. So, I know when I met her family, and I forgot, how did I meet her family? Either I went to her brother's bar mitzvah. There was some reason that I got to know them, and I said, what a lovely, her father was gone, but I never met him. There's something so wonderful about, home family life, and people would come in and say hi, and they'd open the door wasn't even locked, and her mother it was just so great, and I said, this is what I'd like to, I wish I had a family like this. So it was that was the main thing in my life. I said, this is so nice.
That's nice.
Okay?
And do you remember asking Mommy to marry you?
Yeah, I think either I wrote her a letter or I called her on the phone or something.
I remember a card that we had forever.
Oh.
An will you marry me card. It was like you guys broke up for a while and you mailed her a card.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was,
Wait, didn't it say, all right, I'll marry you or something
it's
like
something like that.
Oh, that's nice.
But I did send something to somebody else I had been going with. And it was a joke, but it was serious. I mean, I don't know what I would have done if she would have said yes. But I sent her a card with a spatula in it. I bought a new spatula, and I put that with the card, and I made up the card, and I said, if you don't want this spatula, he opened up and says, maybe you want this spatula.
Oh,
So she,
I'm just having fun.
huh?
Now, was this the girl who drank black coffee and smoked cigarettes?
Yeah,
Oh, what
I
was her
think
name?
so.
I know you always said that you had a girlfriend who liked to drink black coffee and smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, I guess that was the one, yeah, Sally.
Sally. Oh,
Yes, I think so.
I pictured her with a tougher name.
A what?
With a tougher name, like a tougher girl name.
Pinky Tuscadero.
Yeah, like Josie or Roxy or something.
I think I'm mixing up two people, but I didn't have a real relationship with her or any.
What was it like dating? You were a bachelor for a long time. What was it like dating? Did you do a lot of dating?
After I got separated and divorced, I always I still tell people, I'm a born-again bachelor. I sometimes wonder if I didn't do right by you two by giving you enough of an understanding of what marriage was like and what I think it should be like, and it's, but I said something to your mother a couple of months ago. I think she gave me a ride back from New Jersey, and I said to her, very quietly, I said, I'm going to tell you something. I think Alfred made a better husband than I did. but he would never have been a better father than I was. And she paused and she says, you're absolutely right.
That's interesting. I would agree with that assessment.
Okay. Would you?
Yeah, that's pretty true, I guess.
So not?
So what did you think that marriage should and would be like, or you were saying?
Well, what did I think it would be like? Well, I think that we tried to do, I didn't do, we tried, we put it this way, what did I tell you a couple of weeks ago? You and Matt are better parents than we were, but I think that your mom and I was better parents than my parents were. Okay, that's the best I can say. I really tried, there were I remember some good things that I did and some things that not that I did bad, I didn't do bad things, but that I should have done better. I didn't do, I still tell here, I swear there is never a day that goes by that I don't tell stories about you two to people here. Every single solitary day, I tell them about you, because you're very, 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 very special. And, that's all. Not too stupid either.
So, if we can back up from Mommy, so I had stuff from before that, about you being in the Army. Can you tell us about how you went into the Army?
Well,
To change gears, is it okay? Do you want to take a break, or are you ready to
no,
change?
no, I'm just switching gears.
Yes, I'm changing gears on you.
I expected to go into the Army in World War II. And I signed up, and we drafted, I was ready, and I was in high school, and blah, 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 and I go, oh yes, and you're going to go at the end of this, and I signed up, and I told my family, and everybody was packed up, fine, I'm finishing high school now. And the war ended. And they said, we don't need you. No, not already. Go to school, Now, if people did go in there, even at the end after the war was over, if you went in when everything was still in effect, you got all kinds of benefits and college and money and all kinds of things you got, That was World War II. So I went to school and I went to college and got a college degree, and they say, oh boy, we have a whole new war for you. And in Korea, and they drafted me, and even as the draftee, they give you tests in the Army, and I ended up being a electronics teacher there in the Army, and then I got out.
And you never had to go out of the country?
And we tried to get to go. We had a general who said, we need you guys to train more radar men. A few of us, the general wouldn't let us. I even wanted to go, they were opening up a school in California to teach electronics, and I nearly had that. Well, no, we're not going to let you guys out of here, New Jersey. Isn't that,
And you didn't have to go to Korea?
Didn't have to go. People say, Herman, you're crazy. I said, at least let me go to Japan, and and one of my friends says, yeah, you're going to go to Japan. You know how far? The next day they're going to give you a piece of paper, say you're going to Korea. That's it. It was, 2 years. Actually, I tell people, and I hope I can remember the name, the words again. I was there 2 years and 2 days, and I have special papers. There's a thing, if you've been in the Army a long time, you not only get your regular pay, but they give you an extra pay for longevity, it's called, a long time being in the Army.
Oh.
So I was kept in the Army 2 days longer, and I got longevity pay for that. And why was I kept 2 days longer? At the convenience of the government, because the first day I was supposed to come out was Armistice Day, or what do they call now? Veterans Day. So the offices weren't open, they couldn't let me out. And the next day was Sunday, and the offices weren't open, so they had to keep me 2 more days and pay me extra money to stay in the Army.
Did you make any like good friends that you still have from the Army? Or you had for years?
I made some good friends. Not then. I've known other guys like Sandy who, some of us were all in at the same time, but we didn't know each other. But that was a certain time that we all kind of got together and talked about it.
Oh,
But no, I don't think I kept, no.
And
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, why not the Navy or the Marines?
Because I was drafted.
Oh, you were.
I was
so you
drafted.
couldn't choose.
I could have run down as soon as I got my letter and said, no, I'm going over to the Navy or the Marines. They didn't draft you. At least they only did it in the middle of the World War II, and it didn't work because draftees don't make good Marines. Really, But I had a teacher in college who he was drafted and became a Marine. And anyway.
You can't switch over once you get in. I don't know how.
Oh, sure. After I could stay on, I could sign up again. They tried us all, and all of us there in the school, we had degrees and all kinds of other things. You know what I mean? And teaching licenses. And they said, "Don't you want to sign up?" And we said, "As soon as we get out of here, out." And all of the instructors, and we said, "We draftees." I mean,
so what good memories do you have of the Army? Because I know you always talked about good things, like what you ate in the Army and stuff.
I'm sorry.
No, did you say this?
What good things do I remember about the Army?
Like, what about basic training and things like that?
Well, you got 4 hours to,
No.
what can I tell you? Like good things or bad things, or I don't know what. I'll give you,
Distinct things.
how many things do you want to hear
I
about?
want to hear the important things, the distinct things that you remember.
Make huge impressions in your head.
They drafted us in November, and it was a very, very bad winter, but the government had given everything else away because World War II was over. So we didn't have any stuff, and they sent us up to Massachusetts, and it was terrible snow, and it was very freezing, and we didn't even have gloves or anything, and I did something, I could have gotten court-martialed for this, but nobody would have, everybody knew what I was doing. We went out in the snow, and it was cold, it was 7 degrees above, it was cold, and I put big stockings on my arms, and I let them see it. Is it to say to the officers, go ahead, do something to me. You're going to court-martial me or something or other. He saw that I was wearing
Women's stockings or
regular,
socks.
socks?
regular, at least I put some, and we all did a lot of things because we had nothing.
So
we
why
had
would you get in trouble for that?
guys were in
Not part of the uniform?
with summer shoes open and walking in the snow, their own shoes. They couldn't have any boots for them. But, that taught me that, but we knew, they put us in that was like a national armed group or whatever. They didn't put it into a real training. They took a group and said, there's a whole group, train these guys and bring them in, but these guys from Philadelphia or from some from Pittsburgh, they were the most, stupid. They were trolley car conductors, and they did literally, and they didn't know anything. So once, but we got to know each other immediately. When you're going in the Army, we got to know, and I'll tell you how we picked our friends. This is very interesting. But anyway, so once we were supposed to have training, and they had some kind of a radio there, and and the guy says, well, that doesn't work. So we said to the guy who was supposed to teach us, well, let us do it. And a buddy and I, we took it apart, opened it up, and we changed it so we could get music, the regular stations. They said, how do you know what to do with that? Well, we know what to do. Can you imagine? And they looked at us they knew that we knew more than the instructors knew. But I want to tell you about how we picked each other. We got in there, and you go into meals every day, and you go and get your tray, and you get your fork, a knife, and a spoon, metal, supposed to be.
and all they had was spoons. I think all they had was soup spoons. They didn't have knives and they didn't have forks, but plenty of spoons. So we're waiting online there one day, and three of us who didn't know each other, we were just, new there. And I think I did, and some of the other guys, I took out one spoon and I said, I says, this is a knife. Another spoon, I said, this is a fork. And another spoon, I said, this is a spoon. And I put it on the tray. And the guys behind me started to do the same thing. And we all got friendly. And the other guy said, these guys are nuts. But we all knew that we were communicating with one another. Isn't that strange? That's how I got my buddies in the Army.
Oh, that's funny.
Because we could communicate, we knew a lot of different things. Now, the best stuff that I learned in there, they shipped me out after I finished my training to go to the Signal Corps, because we had to take certain tests, and they sent us down to school, and I wasn't with anybody there. No one went with me there, but I went down there, and
Down where?
down to New Jersey, to
New
Fort
Jersey.
Monmouth, and I was a student like everybody else, but I knew this was right. Now, when we came in the Army, there were two kinds of tests. They gave many tests, but two kinds of tests. One was like an IQ test to see how smart you are, and one is like a preference test. If you had, of these four things, bake a cake, fix a doorbell, so I answered all the things. Naturally, I want to fix a doorbell. I don't want to bake a cake, So they took that list, and they took the ones where they asked you questions about all kinds of things, and they compared if your preferences matched your abilities. And man, I understood what was happening there when I wrote the right answers in both ones, and they said, take this guy out of here and send him to the Signal Corps.
And what's the Signal Corps?
That was at that time, it was the only place, the biggest school, where we taught all kinds of things, radio, electricity, radar, and guys were being taught how to take movies in combat, moving pictures in combat, and some guys, radio. So we had all of these instructors, so at night, when there were lights out in the barracks, we were still lying there asleep, and we would tell each other things about what the other person was doing, because we had done it in our civilian life. The guys who'd been telephone guys, they knew all about. I learned more about telephones and tricks. I know a lot about telephones and stuff. I learned from them, and about movies, and what they do with the movies, and they go in combat and so on and so on and so forth. So we traded all kinds of information, and how people have these little dishes on their homes, and they get, instead of having cable, they get their TV programs from a dish. Somebody over here, it's about this big. Well, the dishes that we had for the radar and other things, I think, were 12 feet wide on top of a truck, and then it was down to 10 feet, I think. When I was up here in Poughkeepsie, we were selling them 5 feet in diameter, and someone said someday they'll be little, and we said never, never. And look at how, can you imagine, they went down from a 12-foot, and we learned, we used to go up on top of the trucks. You had to be very careful and turn on the radar set and put food there and cook it, because because they hadn't invented the microwave yet, but that's what it was. And one guy stood there too long and he burnt his arm from the inside out. Really, it's not. But anyway, and then when these things came out, the first microwave set was called Radar Range. That was the name of the brand of it. And we opened up and we found the thing that makes it is the very same part that we had in the radar set. That's what's in the back of that. It makes radio waves to cook the stuff, and it was the same part.
Oh,
interesting. So that's why they call it the radar range.
So now, when you got out of the Army,
why didn't you?
why did you go?
I was
to,
offered.
It sounds like you're
I
very.
was
you were
offered
very
to teach.
interested.
I was offered. This is the saddest thing. I was offered to teach as a civilian there, much more money than I would have made thousands more than I would have made as a
Oh, in the Army, to teach
yes,
the Army
no,
as a
no,
civilian.
teach as a civilian.
But teach Army people
Army
as a
people,
civilian.
yeah.
Oh,
And I didn't have the guts to do anything, and I came back, my parents and so on and so forth.
what's the guts
Because
they
I
offered
never,
to you?
how many times, you don't know this, my daughters, how many times I had opportunities to do things that were much better than what I was, and I've had no guts to do anything my whole life.
What's the guts? What's the guts? They offered it to you. There was the change of...
I would have to, you know, and I was going to say, gee, I'm going to have to get an apartment maybe with the guys and some, you know, and this and that, and I wouldn't be coming back to my parents, and not that I, and I didn't want to come back and teach 4th grade, which I can't, you want the dirty words? I messed up a lot of things, and I'm still messing up at this time. I haven't done my income tax yet.
I was just asking what it was, what the element of the gut was. So it was the change, right? So,
It's not, it's everything, I don't know.
okay.
I don't know, it takes, you guys are pretty gutsy, you've done a lot of different things and a lot of different jobs, and every time you do that, I salute you. Can't do it too many times, but it's good to do it when it has to be done. That's all I gotta say. It's good to do it. But there would have been, you know what would have happened if I had that job and then it fell through? I could have come back. I had a teacher's license. I could have come back here and taught. There was nothing that I would have lost.
Well, that's why I was asking what the guts were, because it seemed like it was pretty safe. They offered it to you. You didn't have to apply for it. And you...
And I filled out the forms and so on.
Oh.
And was more money than and much better in every way, shape, and form, you know.
A lot of people have a fear of success, right? Do you think you have a fear of success?
Yes, yes. I tore up something like
You
that.
don't-
That was
I
gonna
don't believe in fear of success.
yes, there is. It is.
Are you sure it's not a fear of failure in disguise?
It's both. They're two different things. But there is a fear of success. The thing is, the thing I've done times in my life, the people said, gee, you did that? Weren't you afraid? And I said, no, I was too stupid. I'm telling you now, I was too stupid to be afraid. When I went out and got parts in the movies, and you went to, and you got into that movie, in the fame, I said, I didn't know. I went in there, I filled out the form, and I said, yeah, I can do that, you know. And a few other things I've done in my life, and they said, you did that? You went on the radio? I says, I don't have anything. I'm too stupid to be afraid of. Certain things you're not afraid of. I told you, I was telling somebody the other day, 1939, New York World's Fair. Bunch of kids, we were waiting into summertime, and some adult was supposed to take us down to the World's Fair. The person didn't show. So the few of us, about 4 or 5 kids, 1939, so we'll get on the subway, we'll go to the World's Fair. And we went, and we had a good time, and we all came back that day, you know, went on the subway, all out, and came back, had a good time. And I was sitting eating with my parents, and they said, well, how did it go? I said, oh, it was really great, we really enjoyed the fair. Oh, the guy didn't come, so we went there by ourselves. And my parents looked at me. Now, if I had asked them, can I go, they would have said no. Or if I had thought about it, I would have been afraid to go. You know, we didn't think anything about it. What's the big freaking deal? We went on the subway and paid a nickel and went to the World's Fair.
So, that's another question. So, when you went to school, did you have to take the subway or you could just walk? Or I guess for high school you had to take the subway, right?
Well, I'll answer that question. My late Uncle Charlie used to say, do you walk to school or do you bring your lunch? That's what he used to say.
Yes.
Now, what
I mean, how old were you, I guess is the real question, when you could take the
when
subway?
I went to high school, there was no way of going there on paid transit and making it any good. I would have had to use 3 trolley cars and still walk on both ends.
Oh.
So I walked even, it's an old joke, in the middle of the rain, I went 3 miles each way. In the middle of the snow, it was uphill both ways. You know, no, but I walked to high school. I walked everywhere. I walked everywhere.
So, okay, go ahead.
Well, I don't want to forget to have you tell the story because Jardena and I were talking about aliens on the way here because I'm obsessed, and I just want you to tell the story about the letter and why you got that letter when you were in the Army.
Is it just, I hope it's the same letter that you mean about some different letters we got from the Army when I was working in Hunter College, but they said that we couldn't do. But anyway, when I was in the Army, I was in radar. And even before I was teaching it, and at that time, jet planes were just barely even coming out. But anyway, and all the books were coming out about the flying saucers, and so I was reading all of those in the Army, and we said, what if we spot something that's going so fast that it's not a plane, we know, and they said to it, there is no such thing as something coming from outer space, a flying saucer, there is no such, the letter said, there is no such thing as this, there's a lot of nonsense, there is no such thing. If you come across something like that on the screen, write a report for us.
Let us know immediately or something.
Let us know immediately.
Okay.
So I just thought that was
up.
That's the U.S. Army.
You made it seem like that was proof that there was aliens.
Well, that's how I took it.
Oh, okay.
They said nothing like that exists at all. But if you see it, let us know.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Did
is
you see it?
that the answer?
Did you see it? Did you see any
I didn't
aliens?
see it. Sandy says he saw some things,
Well, maybe we should interview Sandy.
I'd love to.
but,
Kendra would like to interview Sandy about the aliens.
Sandy saw something, but I don't think he was even
I
on
saw
radar.
aliens too, by the way. Oh, I'll tell you on the ride home.
Okay.
Anyway, there were things even before electronics, people saw things in the sky and they didn't know, and sometimes there was a meteor and something. People don't know what they don't know what they're talking about.
So after you went to high school, sorry to